The Unraveling. Ever since I was a child, I've always been drawn to the occult. While other girls played with dolls or dressed up, I spent my time with books on ancient rituals and the dark arts. At first, it was innocent enough. Candles, tarot cards, nothing too serious. But as I grew older, that fascination deepened. It turned into something much more intense. It almost felt innate, like I was slowly waking up. Now, at 24, I find myself dabbling in witchcraft, experimenting with spells and potions in my dark little apartment. There's always been this pull I couldn't resist, like someone or something is calling to me from the shadows, and I follow deeper into the unknown. I never really questioned where it came from. It's just who I am. After the car accident, everything changed. The crash was brutal. I survived, but the scars it left were more than physical. I immediately began having nightmares. They were confusing and really hard to describe. You know how dreams can be? Like when you know you're at home, but the dream house looks nothing like your actual house. Or you're with people you've never met in your entire life, but while you're asleep, you definitely know them. It's almost as if you're living another life. What was most disturbing wasn't just the content of my dreams, it was the feeling that I belonged in them. Waking up was worse. From the moment I opened my eyes, panic would set in, clinging to me like a second skin. I had no idea why. I felt so trapped, so disconnected from the real world. I lived like this for months, waking up, gasping, sometimes aspirating saliva into my lungs, and then coughing so hard I thought I might rip a hole in my throat. I was so tired and so desperate for help. My bestie was really into this thing called past life regression therapy. She said it was like a guided meditation, except you ended up experiencing another you from a different lifetime. For whatever reason, this was supposed to help with all kinds of things, like quitting smoking, losing weight, and even trauma. She said that I could even find these meditations recorded on YouTube, which is cool and everything, but I really needed help now, and I would definitely feel more comfortable actually going to a therapist. Not long after, I found myself in Dr. Kavanagh's office. He was a specialist who dealt with unconventional treatments. Dr. Kavanagh was older, with an air of calm that put me at ease almost immediately. His office was cluttered with bookshelves, packed with volumes on psychology, mysticism, and the esoteric. He explained that past life regression might help me unlock memories buried deep in my subconscious, memories that could explain the nightmares and the sense of dread that always haunted me. He explained that sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. I lay back in the recliner, feeling strangely calm, as his voice guided me into a meditative state. The world around me faded away, until only the sound of his voice remained. And then, even that was gone. Suddenly, I wasn't in the office anymore. I found myself in a dense forest. The air smelled of damp earth and pine, and the sky overhead was dark and swirling. In the distance, I could see a small, crooked cottage nestled among the trees. My heart pounded in my chest as dread washed over me, but my feet moved on their own, carrying me toward the cottage. The door creaked open as I approached, revealing a dimly lit room. Shadows danced across the walls, cast by the flickering fire in the hearth. In the center of the room stood a figure, a woman cloaked in black, her face hidden beneath a hood. But even without seeing her face, I knew who she was. She was me. Not the me I knew, but another version of myself, one that had lived and died long ago. She wore old tattered robes, her hands stained with the remnants of dark rituals. "Welcome home," she whispered, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. I tried to speak, to ask where I was, but no words came. She stepped closer, reaching out to touch my face. The moment her fingers brushed my skin, memories flooded my mind. Memories of ancient rites, forbidden knowledge, and a power so vast it consumed everything in its path. I remembered. This was who I had been, a witch. My obsession with the occult wasn't random. It was a remnant of a life I had lived before. I practiced dark magic in the shadows of that very forest. But something went wrong. I had summoned forces I couldn't control, and in the end, I paid the ultimate price. The scene shifted, and I was suddenly bound to a stake, flames licking at my feet. The villagers watched with hatred in their eyes as I burned, but I didn't scream. I didn't struggle. I had known this day would come. The last thing I saw before the darkness claimed me was a young woman standing among the trees, watching with my face. I jolted awake, gasping for breath, my body drenched in cold sweat. I was back in Dr. Kavanagh's office, but everything felt different. He was at my side, his face etched with concern. "What did you see?" he asked. I shook my head, unable to put it into words. The memories felt too raw, too real, as if I had just lived them. I finally understood why I'd been drawn to the occult, why the darkness felt like home. It wasn't a hobby. It wasn't an obsession. It was a part of me, something carried over from a life I had lived long before. But as I looked into Dr. Kavanagh's eyes, I saw something else. Something that sent a chill down my spine. A flicker of recognition, a spark of fear. "You've done this before, haven't you?" he whispered, his voice trembling. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The truth hung between us, thick and suffocating. I had awakened something during the regression, something that had been dormant for centuries. And now, it was back. As I left his office, the night felt darker, the shadows longer. The pull of the forest, the ancient powers, was stronger now. I had remembered who I was. But the real question was, what had I brought back with me?